So I got bored and was trying to think of video ideas. Really didn't want to do anything too outlandish or something that I felt like was forced. So I'm like, let's just look at some random NBA players' basketball reference page. If you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be looking at Andrew Wiggins' basketball reference page. Does that sound boring? Maybe, but I actually think Wiggins' basketball reference page is kind of interesting. I don't know why. But before we go any further, if you're new and you like basketball, I really think you would love this channel. So if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell, notified whenever I release a video. I make videos about basketball, whether that be about the NBA draft, whether that be about the NBA, whether that be about college, whatever. I make videos about it. So if that's something that interests you, this is the channel for you. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. But let's get into it. And also, let me know if you want me to do this with other players, right? So we'll go through their basketball reference page. But yeah, just leave down in the comment section below if you want that. I probably stumbled my words. That's something I'm known to do. But let's get into it. So obviously Wiggins was like the first overall pick, and based off the nicknames they have for him, you can tell there was a lot of hype. Maple Jordan, Junior Jordan, that's a funny one. The Prospect, Mr. Fantastic, I don't know who called him that, and Wiggs, that's just shooting through Wiggins, obviously. So yeah, he was a very high prospect. And the thing is with Wiggins, you look at his career and, the numbers overall, like, it's pretty solid. I think a lot of people, even if he retired today, which he won't, obviously, especially given recent events, people will look at his career and say, just based off the surface, like, yeah, that's a pretty okay career, almost 20 points, like 4 rebounds, 2 assists for 8 years in the league. To even play 8 years in the league is an accomplishment. But, actually put up decent numbers, at least on the surface, that's pretty good. Here's the problem, though. Wiggins had the talent, and he still does have the talent, in my opinion, to be much better than this. He does. If you've been following my channel from, like, the very start, which I know a lot of you probably are, and that's okay. But if you have been, shout out you, by the way, if you have been, like, a day one supporter, you've known that I've been heavily critical of Andrew Wiggins in the past. When I first started the channel, I would say, like, I was like what Skip Bayless is to LeBron, or what Colin Cowherd is to, a Baker Mayfield or Russell Westbrook for Andrew Wiggins. I was heavily critical of him. He was somebody that had way more talent than the numbers suggested, or the impact suggested, or his play and performance suggested in general when you watch the tape. And I still believe that. I still believe this is one of the worst outcomes for his career. And if this is one of the worst outcomes of your career, you're one of the most talented players basketball's ever seen. Wiggins never really improved. Rebound numbers were stagnant and have been stagnant. For somebody that's as athletic as he is, and he's a freak athlete, he should be averaging more than like 4 rebounds a game. The passing never really improved until around this point. I would say he's a better passer now than his early Minnesota days, but he's still not great. Not enough to say, oh, we made this great improvement. Really, until last year, he was awful on defense. And the three-point shooting, and again, until last year, wasn't great. I will find something... I really messed up my words again. Wow. I will say this. This is interesting. He was getting to the line at a pretty good rate those first 3 years. Almost 6 free throw attempts per game as a rookie is pretty solid. 7 as a sophomore is pretty good. 6.6 your third year, that's great. 24 points per game. Like, I think there was an upward trend here, but then it kind of plateaued. Now, say what you want about Jimmy Butler, but I believe Jimmy Butler had a much more positive impact than people want to give him credit for on that Minnesota team. They don't make the playoffs without him. They aren't even close to the playoffs without him. And Wiggins just wasn't good this year. On the surface, 18 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. That's solid. 44% from the field, 33% from 3, 64% from the line. It isn't great shooting splits, but it's not the worst thing. But the advanced stats for that season suggests he's a negative player. Negative offensive box score plus minus, negative defensive one. really has always been a negative on defense in this regard. Overall, just a negative box score plus minus. And when you play that many minutes, the most total minutes of anyone on that team, and they still won 47 games, despite your decently high usage, and negative impact on the court. What does that say about you as a player? But I was actually willing to give him benefit of the doubt, to be quite honest with you. I'm like, okay, maybe like once Butler goes, or maybe at the time at the end of the season, I'm like, okay, he'll adjust to playing with Butler. That didn't happen. Butler ended up leaving in one of the most absurd exits I've seen from a team ever. And then, I thought, okay, maybe he'll bounce back. Maybe we'll get back to that 24 point per game, or near 24 point per game self that I saw the year before Butler was there. He didn't get even close to that. The efficiency went down even more. He just really wasn't that efficient. And, the rebounding didn't show any improvement. I think at this point I kind of gave up on that idea that he'll be anything more like a 5 rebound per game guy. The free throw numbers didn't go back up either. Just wasn't a good year. And when you look at his shooting numbers, I think the big thing with Wiggins is you look at this and you're like, he's taking a decent amount of mid-range shots for most of his career. From like that 10 to 16 and 16 to 3-point range. Decent amount, 19% from the 16 to 3-point and like 13% from the 10 to 16 and then 17 and then, 27 from the 2 to 3 foot is pretty okay. He's actually a pretty good finisher, I would say. Or at least, I would rather, okay, good was a bit much. He's a decent finisher. Actually a pretty good finisher last year, I would say. But for the most part, decent finisher. You expect someone that is an athlete of his caliber to be a decent finisher. But I do believe that him taking on a mid-range shots when he's not really a good mid-range shooter, like that's something that's like, okay, maybe cut that out a bit. I wouldn't say he's awful, but like he's average at best, and you're taking a lot of them. And when you average at best at something and you take a high volume of them, it's not a high percentage look or a quality look. So, no, there is that. I will say in Golden State, overall, not just about the shooting, just in general, he's been better. I would say that 2020 and 2021 was the best season of his career. Didn't average the most points, didn't average the most rebounds or assists, but he was the most efficient of his career by far. Hit threes at a decent rate. He didn't get to the line a lot like you maybe would have hoped he could, but 71% from the line, that's back up again. Was really good in defense. In general, I would say. So it was by far the best year of his career. And he's certainly going to be an impact player. This season, obviously, what happened in the offseason, I'm not going to get into it too much, but, he's come back. It's early. I'm not going to judge him. Maybe he'll get back to what he did last season, but we'll see. But there's more interesting stuff that I found. So you go to his game highs, and, he has good scoring performances, I would say. He has, at least, like, 3 or 4 40-point games. And that's at the very least. Like, I probably would have to go into it even further to see how many more. But this interested me when I was going through it. So his career high is 47, and that game was against the Lakers. They would win that game in a blowout. They won that game by 26 points. But, yeah, so he has 47 points, gets to the line 22 times, which is a lot. For any player, that's a lot. That's high for even guys like James Harden. Like, before the rule change, obviously. But that's a lot of free throws. Here's what's even more insane. So, first half, he has 25 points. Gets to the line about 6 times. That's okay. Yep. You go to the fourth quarter. This man got to the line 15 times. In 10 minutes. 15 times. In 10 minutes. In 1 quarter. All but 6 of his points came from the free throw line. And for any player, 15 free throw attempts in the quarter is insane. But the fact that it was Andrew Wiggins is even more insane, because after that we really saw a decline in his free throw production. And the thing is, if you can score 47 points in this league, you're a good player, or you have the talent to be a good player. When you get to the line 22 times in a game, which is only 8 less than an entire team has combined, you have the talent to be a good player. And that's the thing with Wiggins. He's always had the talent to be a really good player. He just never has been a very good player. You know, he kind of reminds me of Annie Leonhardt or Chaz Princeton, you know, or any other character that I really enjoyed, and they're up there for my favorite characters in the respected show. But I just felt like they were completely misutilized. The difference, however, between, you know, a Chaz Princeton or Annie Leonhardt and Andrew Wiggins, I know it's a weird comparison, I'm sorry, but the difference is those characters aren't in control of what happens. The writers and directors are in control. Wiggins is the writer and director for the most part of his career. There are things that are out of his control. He couldn't control what team he got drafted by, or what team he got traded to after he got drafted. He couldn't control a situation like that. He couldn't control the moves that teams made. What he could control is how he improves. And I'm not going to harp on it the way I used to, because at the end of the day, not everyone's wired to improve the way that you expect an all-time great to improve. There's a reason they're all-time greats, and there are as many of them as there are just ordinary NBA players. And Wiggins may have had the talent to be an all-time great, but he didn't have the wiring. And to be quite honest with you, not everyone will. Talent isn't everything. Talent is something that, you know, anyone can have. But if you don't have the motor and the drive to improve and want to get better, your talent will only get you so far, and that's been the case with Wiggins. Now, I will say, I don't think he's a lazy player. I wouldn't say that. He shows up in shape every year. He shows up the peak athlete he is. He's one of the better athletes in the league in general. And it's never like he's shown up out of shape, slower, not as quick, couldn't jump as high. He's always been like a top tier athlete. But I just don't think he has that extra gear to want to improve. Or maybe he just doesn't have the gear and doesn't know how to. I don't know. Either way, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Like, it's not the end of the world. He's still proven he can play in the league. And I just think he's going to play, because he's already in year 8, which is wild to think about, because I remember when he got drafted. But he's likely going to play 10 plus years, and playing 10 plus years in the league is an accomplishment. But I still think, in a way, it's also justified to be disappointed in Wiggins because of the fact that he clearly had the talent to be great. But that's all I really had to say, you know. Wiggins was a big talking point on my channel early on. Just kind of was bored and trying to throw new ideas out for videos. If you want to see me go over someone else's basketball reference page and just give you my thoughts about it, you know, leave some feedback in the comment section below. But have a good day.